As you're listening to this show, you're probably training for a race. But how dialed in is your race nutrition? Precision Fuel and Hydration has a free online planner that you can use to work out how much carbs, sodium and fluid you need to perform at your best. Brady regularly uses their resealable 90-gram gels on his longer runs. Click the link in the show notes to use the planner to personalise your strategy for your next race. Then use the code INSIDE to get 15% off your first order of fuel and electrolytes and help support the show. More details at precisionhydration.com. Now let's get to it.
That your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place?
Welcome to episode number 324 of the Inside Running Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. We've got a big show coming at you. Pat Tiernan goes bang over at Houston. The women's road 10K world record goes down with an unbelievably quick time. We got listener questions, some news out of Athletics Australia, some patrons to thank, and all the other segments we do every other week on this podcast. Let me introduce my co-host for this week. He's based up in Canberra. He's a 217 man. Winner of the Christchurch Half Marathon back in 2018, 3:48 1500 metre PB, the fastest Australian male with a loop recorder, and the head coach of the Mulligans Flat Track Club. Welcome to this week's podcast, Bradley Croker.
Thanks, Brady. It's a nice intro.
Well, when you've only got one person to introduce, Croaks, you can go a bit higher. We do not have a guest host this week. It's probably my fault because we're recording Tuesday during the day. We had a few people lined up, but the availability didn't work. Obviously, Moose is on road to Osaka. So it's just Croaks and I. I'm feeling a bit nervous, Croaks, but I think we can cover it.
No, that will be all right. It reminds me of those days when we did some bonus episodes for Patreon, and it was just us two, just chatting.
Yeah, and we did the Inside the Mind episode. We did that as well. So we've done a few of these episodes together. And I didn't think we would have much to talk about this week. So I'm like, man, you'll be fine. And then we've come out with all these big performances. Precision Hydration, we're going to talk about some of their stuff as well. Massive thanks to those guys partnering with the show. You're not in Canberra though. Where are you?
So I'm down in Malua Bay, so near Bateman's Bay. Yes, we're down here for 4 nights. I left on Sunday, back on Thursday. So weather's not great, but the ocean is warm. So we've still been getting down for a swim, and we're only a couple 100 metres from the beach. So that's handy. And tell me, Brady, why are we recording on Tuesday? What did you have on yesterday?
I went to the Australian Open yesterday, Croaks. I was in the super box thanks to Lululemon. Geez, they do a good job looking after their people. I get imposter syndrome whenever I go to a Lululemon event because I'm just like, why am I in here? Probably like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I think there was 10 of us in there. Like, you have your own waiter, free food, like amazing food too, free drinks. Jess Denson flew over for it, so it was great to catch up with Jess and see how she's going. She had baby Ali with her as well. So, yeah, it was rubbing shoulders with a few big dogs and didn't get back until about 9 p.m. to Echuca last night. So it won't probably impact our public listeners because this will go out normal time. But sorry to our Patreon supporters for being 24 hours late. But we hope you enjoyed Road to Osaka early.
Very good.
It was good. The tennis games weren't that good. They went pretty quick. You know, it was
like, problem.
Like
first,
second
first
day.
Round.
Yeah. So you get to see a few big names, but they're just putting people away. Anyway, Craig, let's talk about some running. What have you been doing? Let's recap this week of yours.
Well, I reckon let's mix it up, Brady. Why don't you go first? You're the real runner here.
Now, okay, you put me on the spot here. I haven't got my Strava open. Sometimes I do actually write it out in like Monday to Sunday kind of format, but I wasn't that organised this week, so I'm literally just loading up my Strava now. Monday I was still in Geelong. Did you have heaps of rain Monday as well?
I don't know, because I'm on holidays at the moment. Every day sort of rolls into, and because I don't run. Oh no, I did run last Monday. Yeah, I'm guessing we would have had a fair bit of rain.
Yeah, this run, like, it didn't worry me. I ran on that troop loop. You know how Lee Troop's got a loop named after him, like, which is his bike path along the, I think it's the Barwon River in Geelong. I did cop some shit for not going down to the surf coast to do my easy runs down there, but I had like 4.5 hours in the car in the opposite direction, so I didn't really want to go like 30 hours there, do an easy recovery run. 30 minutes there, easy recovery run, 30 minutes back. So I just went solo on the troop loop. It's a real stock standard like bike path that goes next to the river. I reckon any town that's got a river has one of these bike paths and know what I'm talking about. The race was Saturday night, and then I took Sunday super easy. So Monday I felt pretty good. I ran 16k at 4:29s, and then probably one of the hardest days driving I've had. Just like heaps of rain. There was the lake kind of outside of Bendigo in the Chuka direction had kind of flooded and then taken out a couple of roads, so we had to kind of drive the long way around. Like, we're going past towns that were like getting evacuated near like Ngambie and Seymour, places near there. So it was kind of like pretty hairy trying to drive when you got, full family in the car and the rain's absolutely hammering down. But we got home all good. I did 7k in the afternoon at 4:33s. Tuesday 18k at 4:29s in the morning. I would say I probably did strides there as well. In the afternoon on Tuesday I was on the treadmill, did 7k at 4:50s, just finishing Berlin. Have you got onto that yet? The Money Heist stuff?
No, I haven't started that yet.
Get onto that. So I'll finish that series and I'll tell you about a new series I've started watching on the treadmill. Hey, do you reckon I'm going too easy on the treadmill? Like, if I'm averaging like 122 heart rate, got to ramp it up a bit?
No, I think that's fine.
That's right, yeah. Because I'm loving it. I was saying to the monthly boys, I'm like, this is like, they're the funnest runs of the week now, because there's just no effort. Like, I just get them. I just pretty much feel like I'm watching Netflix. I don't know. I forget I'm running. So
the thing I love about the treadmill is it actually forces me to have a recovery day, because you set the treadmill to that pace, your heart rate then generally stays pretty consistent, assuming it's not super hot. And like that's all it is for you. It's a pure recovery run.
Yeah. Not trying to gain fitness from that one. Wednesday I did 3x5k off a K float. This was pretty humid. I started it without a singlet on Croaks, which is pretty rare for me. Like, usually I like start with a singlet on, and then sometimes I play mind games where it's like get the first rep done, then take your singlet off, so then you feel better. Do you do that? Like, you feel better once you take the singlet off?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so it's almost like you'll feel better when you're halfway through the workout and you get to take your singlet off. So I started with my singlet off, so it was pretty humid. Did 3x5k. This time I wanted to be a bit more conservative early, because the week before when I did 4x3k, the heart rate kind of creeped up on me like very late. Or probably 3/4 of the way through the workout, and it just wasn't a good way. I felt like I was just overreaching for something that should be kind of marathon effort. So went, kind of like 3:22s, 3:20s for the first one, then a K float in 3:41, and then probably 3:19 average for the second 5K, a 3:42 float, and then probably 3:16, 3:17 average for the last one. And it was just a better way to finish, knowing I still had plenty of pop in the legs and could kind of like work it down a bit. And the heart rate was good, like I averaged 162 for the whole workout. And it was probably just getting close to like hitting 170 towards the end there when I was working it down. So that was positive.
Because of the weather, do you still feel like towards the end of that session, perceived effort was a bit higher than marathon pace or marathon effort? Because your paces were very similar to what you'd probably do if it was 10 degrees. But, you're obviously trying to run marathon pace. But, when you're doing it and it's hot and humid, perceived effort's probably a bit higher.
100%. And that's what gives me confidence, that I'm like, I still can hit the time I kind of want to hit, but I'm probably running this in 10 to 15 degrees warmer with the humidity factor than it's going to be at Osaka. So, but that's why in the first one, when I was like, the first K was 3:23, like the old Brady would have been like, we got to get this down, we got to run 3:19s, that's what you want to run on race day kind of thing, and not factor in the weather, where I was happy to kind of work into it and then maybe push, like running the last couple of Ks at 3:12, 3:14s was definitely quicker than marathon pace and effort, but I was in a position I could do that because I was smart early on.
Talk us through your nutrition and liquids and everything for that session?
Nothing for that one. So I just went like 8.5k out, 8.5k back. So I didn't take anything other than... No gels for that. I did have I was sipping away in the morning on the Precision, like the dissolvable tabs for the electrolyte drinks. Yeah. I had one of those with like 500 mils beforehand. But no, I didn't have any gels in that one.
Don't you think that's the session, though, that you should be taking on?
Because you're at the pace. Yeah. It was more so, I don't know, probably if it was 4 by 5k, I would have. But 3, I was like, I'm not going to tap in. Like, it was over in 57 minutes. Whereas the Sunday... Yeah, but this, you're saying familiarise yourself with it. Yeah,
but also just from I don't know if you saw Morgan McDonald's latest YouTube clip where he was actually fueling during a session. So he was on the treadmill and he was actually, fueling. And it's like he's not even a marathoner. Like he's, training for 5 and 10K. And so I still think there's value in, fueling, especially for 3 by 5K.
So to aid recovery and stuff as well. Like he's topping up to recover before he's actually...
Yeah. And to make the quality of the session a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about it, to be honest. I definitely did on Sunday. I'll get to that in a second. Then I did 8k on the treadmill in the afternoon, which makes my Thursday super easy. 12k in the morning at 4:40s. And then I drove to Melbourne because I had a dinner to go to. So I ran around Princess Park in Carlton. And Princess Park is so underrated. Everyone in Melbourne runs around the tan. I reckon Princess Park is 10 times better than the Botanical Gardens. You agreeing with me? You ran around there? 3.2k flat. There's a little goat track. There's grassy fields you can look at in the inside. Maybe it's just because I hate hills at the Botanical Gardens. So I don't know. It's beautiful to run around there. Yeah, so
never run there. So.
Just next to Melbourne Uni. You never ran Princess Park. But how many times would have you run around the tan in Melbourne?
Oh, not a whole heap. I actually haven't done that much running in Melbourne.
Yeah, okay. Went out for dinner at a very nice location. So this was Lululemon as well. The some city ambassadors. Got to meet Max Gawn, the ruckman for Melbourne, probably the best ruckman in the AFL. Yeah, so I sat across from him. I was just like, stay cool, Brady, stay cool. Do not go turn into a fanboy. Because, I follow AFL pretty regularly, so it was pretty cool. He was actually really, really nice and showed a massive interest in running and the shoes, just asked heaps of questions about shoes and how we train and things like that as well. So the next morning I met up with Zach and Newman, a couple of others. Who else was there? Maddie Heiner was there. Miles was there as well. And the Mizuno big dog. Tom Hall was there as well. Yeah, so it was good to see Tom. Hadn't seen Tom for a while. So we just did
What's Maddie Heiner up to? She running a lot?
She is the smoothest mover getting around. She looks like she's ready to lace up for the Olympics, but I think she's just doing a lot of social running, just going through the motions, just staying fit, social kind of thing. I didn't ask her exactly what she had coming up, but that was an hour at 4:38. Then I went back to Moama in the afternoon, got on the treadmill again for 7k. Started watching Boy Swallows Universe. You watched that? You read the book?
Haven't you? No.
Have you read the book?
Neither. No.
Read the book first and then watch it. Both are amazing. So that was good. Saturday, 16k in the morning, 4:27s, and then in the afternoon I did 30 minutes on the treadmill at 4:49s, and then Sunday was the big one for the week. So this was full similar breakfast. Even did similar basic white rice and a bit of chicken the night before for dinner. Gels, drinks, about a 7, maybe 6.8k loop I did. Drinks on the back of the Kia to pick them up. The idea was to do 30k continuous at around about 95% of my goal marathon pace. So I wanted to hit anywhere between 3:25 and 3:28s. Mentally, Croaks, this is a hard one to get out of the car for when you're by yourself and you're kind of locking in for 30k of work. Got it done. Average 3:26s. I kind of went through a rough patch probably at about 22k. And when I say rough, it was just this still feels like I've got forever to go when I'm still at 8k to go, 6k to go, something like that. And I'm just Yeah, like aerobically, absolutely fine. Like if you look at my heart rate, average 160, got up to like 163. It's 4 at the end, but just kind of sat there perfectly. This is just beating the legs up, training the mind to get bored. Yeah, it was a bit cooler, like it was 15 degrees, but a bit windy, 20k an hour winds, but I got some good tailwinds and worked through when you're running 95% pace, it doesn't actually impact you too much, the wind, because you're not really, it'd be different if I was trying to run 3-minute K pace. So yeah, positive to get that done. Body held up okay. Gels went down really good. So I got the big precision hydration 90 gram pouch in. Like, looks like, have you seen it before? Looks like a yogurt pouch. And that's like, we've cut this deal with Precision for the next couple of weeks, but it's very easy for me to review it because it's what I've used. Like I use this at Gold Coast. So 90 grams in one pouch. I'm pretty high carb burner. So my goal is to get that down by the first half marathon. So like that, I start with that in my hand and I've just got to sip on it for the first 21 Ks. And I always find it really easy to get that down in the first half of the race, which is probably the most important because it sets you up for the second half of the race. Then I have 3 more 30 gram ones of the precision ones and one with caffeine in it. So in this one, I got through the 90 grams and I got through the one caffeine one. And I would have been pretty much ready. I probably could have ripped the second one, but it was like 5 minutes to go. I probably should have for the sake of just practicing it. And I also picked up 3 pop tops where I split 500 mils of the electrolyte mix over 3 drink bottles. So what's that?
120 grams of carbs.
Yep, that was the plan there. And then
in an hour 40 odd.
Yep, and no carbs in the drinks. I was just getting the electrolyte through the drinks, which we got approved from BY the other day, and we do get drinks. So now I'll start looking at if I'm going to potentially maybe go with some drink mix. I'm going to trial that in the next couple of weeks because that's now going to be available to us. But
But if you're like a heavy burner of carbs, like do you think you should be trying to get maybe more in than that? Because
more. So I pretty much had 90 down in the first hour and 10 minutes. But then I only got 40 more in the next, like, 40, 45 minutes. So I've got to, and I don't know if I've got to space that 90 a bit more. Like, I felt like it was easy to get it in early on, but by the time I was finished, I'm like, oh, my guts. I don't think, like, it just wasn't really, I think that's common with a lot of people that the longer you go, the harder it is to kind of get down. And well, that's where maybe I'll look for the carb mix later in the race. So I might go like the gels and the electrolytes early on, and then from 21k onwards, I might go for more of the carbs are getting in the fluids, getting them in that way. But we'll see. But that's why you got to practice it.
Yeah, and also find varieties good. Like, you know, if you're having 90 grams of the same stuff in that first hour, it becomes a bit monotonous. And I find, you know, mixing up the flavors of gels or having, and that's why I really love flat Coke towards the end of the race, because it's like, it's something to look forward to. It's away from, you know, it's not a gel. So yeah, maybe mixing up sort of the carb mix, which is obviously a fluid, with the gels can sort of help. Yeah. You know, don't know if it helps with digestion as much, but
isn't it taste fatigue though? Isn't there something in it like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I just know when you're out, you know, running for 2.5 hours, you're going to have these rough patches, and you want something to sort of take your mind off it and something to look forward to. And so having a variety of you know, different flavors or you know, fluids versus gels just sort of mixes things up and you know, takes the monotony away from it all.
Yeah. There's also there's science around as well, isn't there, just putting it in your mouth and spitting it out? So like getting like your taste buds like activated, like even if you can't swallow it later in the workout or the race, just swirling it around.
We'll have to ask the big dog when he comes on in a few weeks of precision hydration.
Yeah, pretty sure there's something in that. But so that might be a thing as well, like to have something towards the end that you know your guts are going to be no good with, but you love just having it in your mouth, and you're like, you don't have to swallow it. You can just have a bit of it because you're still absorbing some of it. The flavouring's got to be good. So that was 177k for the week.
Like even for me with the gels, like if I'm doing a 2.5 hour long run and I have like 3 gels, like I'd want to mix those up in terms of the flavours, just so I don't get sick of it. So
I also tried one of the chews. So they've got these chews which are I've got a pack here. It's mint and the lemon flavour. So they're like 2 tiny little like cubes, and like 30 grams for both of them, or 15 grams obviously for one. And as I was putting my my training shoes on, I wore the Vaporfly 3s. I just chewed on one of those. I'm just like, this just gives me a 15 gram top up, like, which is half of one of those gels before I actually start. So if I add that on to what I consumed.
You haven't tried the carb mix yet?
I haven't tried the carb mix yet, nah. But now that I know I've got drinks, because I was hesitant to rely on drinks because I wasn't sure if we were going to get them. So like Valencia, I got into that habit of being like, carry all your carbs and then pick up all your fluids. And just, it might be electrolytes, it might be water, it might be soft drink. If you go to Berlin, you get Red Bull, don't you? Like, not sure what it is. So I'll try that, I think, this Sunday. But yeah, so if you start adding that 15 grams up, I've probably done 105 grams in the first 22k of that run, which I did something similar at Gold Coast, and that was like probably didn't get enough in from 25k to 40, but I felt like I wasn't bonking because I'd done the work early in the race. So yeah, kind of like preload it. So 177k's, 6 weeks to go.
And how do you feel like your fitness is, 6 weeks out compared to, say, Valencia last year or when you ran your PB?
Yeah, Valencia last year or the year before now is really hard to compare because I'd come off like a 10k and a half marathon PB. So I think I was like going into that block way fitter than I was this one. But I think I'm getting fitter. So 3 weeks ago I did that 30k tempo where I went 15k at 340 into 15k at 325s. And that was pretty challenging at the times. And now, like 3 weeks later, I've now done 30k at 325s. So I'm now hoping with another 6 weeks. I think I'm building nicely where I want to be. Yeah. I think I'm in PB shape. Like, I think I can, I did. But before Gold Coast, when I ran 220, I ran 28k at this pace. And before Melbourne, when I ran 220, I ran the same thing, 28k at this like 325, 326 pace. So to think that I've done 30k at this pace this far out puts me in that 220 window. And I'm just hoping that on a flatter course and not as hot kind of thing, that both those days I ran 220 mid. That's the difference in 40 seconds. And then I can get a bit fitter over those next 6 weeks to be, 219.30 kind of shape.
Yeah, I think doing some stuff in the relatively warm weather will definitely help when you get over there.
Yeah,
You'll feel way fitter.
And I think the race brought me up a bit as well. Like, I think a track 10k usually like brings you up a bit. So, I just had a bit more confidence that I'm like, okay, this doesn't all look sexy on Strava, but I think it's working, because when it come to racing last week, it was like a half decent performance. So not getting too caught up in the numbers. Tell me what you've been doing.
Good week, Brady. So I had another 100k week. So I kicked off. First run was Tuesday.
Hang on, before you start, was this approved by a cardiologist?
Oh, actually, yeah. So when we recorded last week, I did send Andre a text message while we were recording. So then he called me Tuesday afternoon, and he said, look, he was heading away overseas for a few weeks, but he said, look, I'll get somebody from the hospital to call you and book you in for another stress test, and we'll review your loop recorder info. So, he called me Tuesday afternoon, sort of filled him in on what was happening. I said, I think my heart's going pretty well. I said, I've been rolling 70k weeks, but I did increase to 100 recently. He's like, oh, yeah, was that what, you just had a bit more time on your hands? I'm like, yeah, that plus, I figured everything was tracking well, and it was the start of the new year. Anyway, the hospital called me like 10 minutes after I'd spoken to him, and I'm locked in for the 14th of Feb to head down through. So I've booked flights for a day trip to go and do some more testing, and hopefully everything's still perfect, like as it was when I did the last stress test.
Yeah, okay, that's good. He wasn't against it though. He was just like, keep going. He didn't tell you to drop back to 70 k's.
He said, don't do any more than what you're doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, he was happy enough. Just keep doing what I'm doing, but not go any more. So first session was Tuesday. It was a long hill session. So a lot of the guys now that I coach are gearing up for Canberra Marathon. So we're sort of in that 12 weeks out. So sort of like a bit of a pre-marathon block where we focus a bit more on strength. So, one of sort of the go-to sessions for those people is 5 to 6 by 3 minute hills with 90 seconds jog back down. And then you just slowly work your way to the top of Mount Stromlo. But because I'm not, training for a marathon, I thought, I don't need to do 5 or 6 3-minute reps. So the people that weren't training for the marathon, we did 4 3-minute hills with 90 seconds jog back down, and then I did 5 30-second hills after that. So this was actually a pretty good session. I was a little bit, I didn't think I'd feel as good as I did, and I was also quite conservative on the first rep. I find this is a session where probably every time I've done it, I've gone a little bit too hard in that first 3-minute rep, and I find that the first 3 minutes of this hill is probably one of the sort of steeper sections. So it was pretty smooth. Like, paces are pretty irrelevant, but I got through like 180 meters of elevation over the 6.2K of the session. So that was pretty fun. The only issue was it started to rain sort of halfway through, and the road surface is that sort of pebbly road where it can get quite slippery. And so for the 30-second hill reps, I wasn't getting much traction because the road was a bit slippery. But
what
other
shoe
than
you
that,
wearing
it was,
for that?
I wore the RC Elite version 2. Remember the purple one, New Balance?
Purple, yeah. Doesn't that shoe just pop up randomly, like in the weirdest places? The RC Elite 1, the green one, and the 2. Like, I don't think either of us, we've never raced in it, but it's just like you go, actually I have like that Ekiden cross-country road kind of like rocky race. That's the perfect shoe for that. It's good on the grass track. It's good for the traction. That one's not as good for traction though, is it? The second?
No, the second one, traction's not as good. I think that was a bit more. I think that the version 2 was definitely a bit more of a marathon super shoe, whereas version 1 was, it was a fun shoe, and I used that for a lot of my off-road sort of undulating tempos, and I sort of use this one now as those sort of sessions I do on trails, or it's a shoe now that if I'm not chasing times, I'll just use it. So that's what I use for that one.
Did you see off track here, but did you see that Brett Robinson was doing the hill reps up at Falls Creek in the Vaporfly 3? Like, isn't that the biggest flex? Everyone wants to get their hands on that shoe, and he's just on a rocky, shitty, like gravelly road, just ripping up a pair of the rarest shoes that no one can get their hands on.
The Alpha Fly 3s, you mean?
Yeah, what did I say? Vaporfly. Alpha Fly 3s. Yeah, Alpha Fly 3s. He's just like, this is the world I'm living in, fellas. I just use these as shitty, like, hill rep shoes.
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, if you're sponsored, I'd probably do that as well.
Yeah, must have, like, unlimited, like, amount of them. Anyway, what'd you do after that?
So Wednesday was my midweek long run. So I did 80 minutes, 4:12s out at Mulligan's. That was 19K. Thursday was a 45-minute run at Mulligan's. I went on like a slightly flatter loop. I actually got pretty wet on this one because of the lower section of Mulligan's was quite wet. So there was a lot of puddles, which sort of got halfway through that loop, and I was sort of regretting my decision because, feet were all wet. And but that was, 4:24s. And then Friday was, probably my most intense session I've done since coming back. So a lot of the group are racing this coming Friday. There's a remember the Stromlo 5K on the Criterium course that's been going for a few years now. So that's on again this Friday, and so a lot of the group are doing that. As sort of a last sort of short race before they get into the marathon block, or for other people just a hit out. So I wanted them to do a bit of a sort of sharpening up session. So we did like a 10 by 1 minute on 1 minute float. I put the Alpha Fly 1s on for this session, the first pair we ever got given, the black and green ones.
You should be selling them. You shouldn't be running in those. Imagine what they'd be worth these days.
Yeah, I don't know. They've done about 150k, I reckon. So I did Gold Coast 2022, but we've nearly had them for 4 years.
You know where we got those shoes from?
Yeah, straight off the back of the
US trials.
US Olympic trials. Yeah.
I was telling Andy Buchanan this story yesterday. So for people who didn't listen to the show, Chris Cook, who works for Nike over in the States, the story went that the US trials were happening and Nike didn't want to hear any people whinging about unfair advantage of having some kind of their shoes or not their shoes. So they pretty much said anyone who qualified for the US trials, you could go to this room at this hotel and just pick yourself up a pair of the new Alpha Flies, which some people did. Some people obviously didn't because they would have had other sponsors. And then there were shoes left over, and then three pairs made their way to Australia thanks to Chris Cook from America.
Goes to show how little I've raced. The fact I've had them for 4 years and I've put 150k in them, and including one marathon.
Yeah.
But doesn't that also show how far the other shoe companies have come in that? Because that was right at the peak of the whole Nike is so far ahead of everybody else. Whereas now, you've got Pat Tiernan running 207 in Puma, and
Pumas, yeah.
Every other brand has almost an equivalent.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so this session went pretty well. It was, it was a relatively hot and humid sort of morning, which over a 20-minute session probably doesn't impact you a little bit, but definitely the last sort of 5 minutes, I'm like, this is a bit hot. But I averaged 3:16s for that 20 minutes. So the splits, so it looks like my slowest on was 3:08 and my fastest on was 2:59, and then most of the floats were all around 3:30. So that gave me some encouragement. I think my watch told me that it was my fastest 5k in 16 or something, so I'll take that. So that was Friday. Saturday I did, that's right, so Ben Wisby, my old coach who now lives in New Zealand, he was back over with his family, and so they were, so I've met them towards the back end of their runs. That was Ben, Trav and McGowan. So I did just under an hour, 13.2k, 4:14s, and then caught up with those guys for breakfast afterwards. And then Sunday was, and I should say this week, Canberra's traditionally a really dry place, but the humidity here this summer has been quite intense, and I feel it's definitely starting to just take a toll on me a little bit, just draining. The nights are hot and you don't sleep that well, and you wake up the next morning and even though my sleep scores are still in the 90s, I wake up and I'm just and then you finish your run and you just got sweat just dripping off you, which sort of not used to in Canberra. And sort of Sunday was a bit similar. So I did 2 hours, 28.5k, 4:13s. So it was a week of 101k. Going well. I feel this week's going to be a bit of a down week for me. Maybe not from a volume point of view, but just from an intensity of sessions. I feel I've just maybe got a little bit carried away the last 3 weeks, where I look back to 2 years ago and I got really, really fit by doing that Ingebrigtsen style training where, admittedly a lot of it was on the treadmill. I was doing one session outside a week, which was generally either K reps, short hill reps, or 400s off short recovery. And then the other one was a treadmill session, which was often the 6-minute reps. And I just went back and looked at sort of some of my heart rate data, both from the track sessions and from the treadmill sessions, and I'm definitely getting higher now. And so I feel I'm probably just, overreaching a little bit. So I'm going to maybe just go back to lowering the intensity, maybe extending the length of the sessions a little bit, because it seemed to work really well for me 2 years ago. So just a bit of a reminder this last week where I'm just feeling a bit sort of banged up, because 100k weeks at the moment feel like 160.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about the humidity? What percentage does it start to impact you? Like, are you saying, like, if it's 70, is that, like, going to impact your running and your workouts? What number do you work
maybe
off?
maybe not 70. It's more, I'd say anything above 80% definitely
Okay.
starts to, but where I know is when I start to warm up and 5 minutes into a warm up and I'm already sort of like sweating, and I find that just it's more that the air's real thick, so I find it like just a bit harder to breathe. Plus just the perceived heat. Like I'm definitely not great in the warmth. I find for me anything above sort of 15 degrees and I definitely start to feel hot, which then also just takes a bit of mental energy away. Whereas when it's 5 degrees, like you don't have any of that. Because you know what it's like the back end of sessions or runs when it's hot, you just start to, it just starts to sort of wear on you a little bit.
Yeah, so the second part of that question is, let's say listeners out there are running in humidity that's higher than 80, and we have a lot of them because it's pretty humid first thing in the morning. We've got a lot of blue collar listeners who are getting out there before the sun comes up. How long in duration, if you're doing a 20-minute workout, you can probably get away with it. It's not going to impact you. But I'm finding these ones that I'm out there for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, fartleks or long marathon reps, I'm finding it from like 35, 40 minutes on, it just like rolls me. It creeps up, like first 25, 30 minutes doesn't really impact me, and then it like almost punches me in the face. And it's like everything got hard really quick. What do you reckon that time barrier is where it starts to affect people?
I don't know. I reckon sessions that go longer than 30 minutes definitely starts to impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take your hat off too. I've been warming up with a hat on and just being like, geez, I'm feeling really hot. And then I take it off and I'm like, a bit of airflow. Like this is a good thing. Right,
But I have been having, so was it Sunday? I actually tested out one of the precision 30-gram gels.
Oh, yeah.
And also been having the electrolyte tablets, which obviously with the extra humidity and the amount of sweating, so I sort of alternate between the 1500s. So they've got 750 milligrams of sodium. So I have those when I, sweat probably more or have like a longer session. Whereas if it's, if I've sweated a fair bit but it's a shorter duration or haven't lost as much sweat, I'll go the 1,000 ones, which is like the 500 milligrams.
Oh, to be honest, I've just got my box of stuff here from Precision. I didn't notice there were two different options. So the one's purple, one's orange?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So the orange is 1,000, the other
one's got
500.
500 and one's got 750.
Ah, okay. Another note I should mention as well, I have been using this on the treadmill. So, like, we had the conversation about weight last week, like trying to be on the treadmill and then every K I just have a sip of my water bottle with the electrolyte in it. So it's like, which I wouldn't do if I just went out for an easy double. I'd just go do a 7K loop and wouldn't take on any fluids. So I'm finding that's like, keeping me hydrated, keeping the weight on, or trying to replace what I'm losing from sweating on the treadmill. So it's a nice little.
I always drink on the I always drink on the treadmill. So even not electrolytes or anything like that, but I'll always have a drink bottle there, and even on a 30-minute run, I'll still have a drink, which, as you said, you wouldn't do that if you're going outside for 30 minutes.
I've got a guy coach in Brisbane, and we've just kind of implemented that it's like, for some of his easier runs, maybe it is a 2.5K, 3K loop around his house, and he's grabbing a pop top off his letterbox to just be like, if he's doing 12K and he's just doing 3K loops, like he's getting 4 by 150, 200 mil kind of in, which then just aids recovery and makes sure you can get through that run all good. So, something to think about.
I've suggested that as well for I've got a couple of people up on the Sunshine Coast, and I've changed some of their sessions from like jog recoveries to just sort of walking or shuffling, because it's like when it's hot and humid, your heart rate just doesn't come down if you're jogging between the reps. But I've also suggested, hey, if you're doing like 6-minute reps, try and find like a 6-minute loop where you can actually then have drinks during the sessions. Because if I was living up there, I would struggle to be a runner. I'd be hating it. Just with the heat, humidity, it's bloody hard.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank some Patreon supporters.
Let's do it.
You want to do? We'll just do the 2, hey? Then we'll save one for next week when we've got a guest host with us.
All right, I'm going to go to the top one. So I've got Evan Mannon. So Evan lives in Canberra, and last year he ran 39.10 at the Husky 10K, 83 minutes at Gold Coast half, and 3:22 at the Sydney Marathon. Did a little bit of digging, and Evan was and possibly still is the owner of Lonsdale Street Roasters 7, which is a very good cafe in Canberra. So thanks for your support, Evan.
Jeez, I don't know, cafe. He'd be a busy man. He'd be pulling early hours.
Would be.
Cafe operator.
Long hours too.
Thanks, Evan. I'm going to thank Jo Burkett. She lives in London, but originally from New Zealand. According to her Power of 10 profile, Jo has ran 21.29 for 5K, 43.12 for 10K, 93 minutes at the 2019 Vitality Big Half Marathon. That's a pretty big one over there, isn't it? Gets big crowds and stuff. Mo Farah used to rock up and win it. I reckon Clousey did it one year. And also 3:21 at the 2019 London Marathon. She is a trained cardiac physiologist and a sonographer. What's a sonographer? Sonographer. What do they do, Croaks?
It's like ultrasound.
Oh, yeah?
Right.
And after 24 years in the healthcare industry, she went on to study a master's in exercise physiology and human nutrition at the Loughborough University. There's a track there too, isn't it? They do like workouts there. That's Paula Radcliffe's old stomping ground.
Yeah, really, yeah. And obviously it's a real strong sporting program, I think, Loughborough.
Yeah. Thank you, Jo, for your support. Evan, all the Patreon supporters over there at patreon.com/Inside Running Podcast. We really appreciate your support. If this show brings you value, you can sign up for as little as $5 a month to keep the lights on. So I'd like to think, Croaks, between Road to Osaka, Inside Running, Shoe Geeks, a month's worth of those shows would be worth $5. What's that?
The monthly? Or just hearing Christian once a month? 2
monthly, yeah. You get a bit. Well, that's on the $5 level. That's on the next couple of tiers up. But yeah. Geez, he's worth every cent of that. That was a good monthly episode the other day. He's real good mates with Nick Bedeau now. So he's like Nick told me this, Nick told me that. So he's like Nick Bedeau's new right hand man. I always thought Collis Birmingham was the right hand man, but now it's Chris O from Norway. Toby's always good value as well. Sinead and Ali on their monthly episodes. If it's bonus content you're after, we'll be providing that over on Patreon. Get the early release. So the general public still haven't heard Shoe Geeks. That's coming out later this week, but the Patreon supporters have heard it from a week ago.
As you're listening to this show, you're probably training for a race. But how dialed in is your race nutrition? Precision Fuel and Hydration has a free online planner that you can use to work out how much carbs, sodium and fluid you need to perform at your best. Then they have a range of fuel and electrolyte products to make it real easy to hit your numbers. Brady regularly uses their resealable 90-gram gels on his longer runs, and the boys training for Osaka are working with their sports science team to dial in their strategies for race day. They also work with a long list of top runners, including 4-time Olympian Lisa Waitman, Hayden Hawkes, and regular guest on the show, Izzy Bat Doyle. Click the link in the show notes to use the planner to personalise your strategy for your next race. Then use the code INSIDE to get 15% off your first order of fuel and electrolytes and help support the show. Patreons can get 20% off using the code shared in our Patreon-only shows. Shop now at precisionhydration.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Let's get into running news, Croaks, because bits happened. Take us to Houston Marathon first. It turns out Pat Tiernan was running the marathon.
He was, and we'll get to his result shortly, but we'll just rattle off the podium. So Zouhair Tabir from Morocco, I think. He ran 2:06.39. Sedat Ayana was second in 2:07 flat, and Henrik Pfeiffer from Germany was third in 2:07.14. But our man Pat, he finished fourth overall, but more importantly, he ran underneath the Olympic qualifying time, which is 2:08.10. He ran 2:07.45 to become the second fastest Aussie of all time. So for reference, Brett's run 2:07.31, and Dick, who's now ranked third, has run 2:07.51. His pacing was phenomenal. He went through halfway in 63.53. And these are his rankings now, Pat, from like 5K through to the marathon in terms of Australian all-time rankings. So he's 8th all-time in the 5K, 2nd for the 10, fourth for the half marathon and now second for the marathon. So he certainly knows how to perform when it counts. And what I'm most excited about is that it now assures that we have at least two men on the start line now in the marathon at the Olympics, which it wasn't looking great there for a while. It
wasn't. Pat Tiernan did that in his second marathon. It took Deke and Mona to their sixth to get into the 208s. Also, Brett Robinson was definitely 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe. Maybe not 10, but yeah, he definitely didn't hit a 208 in his second marathon. Wasn't surprised at all. Like, Pat Tiernan is the top of like what we've seen. I think if you put him on the track against Deke and Mona as well, over 5, 10K, he would have, his natural talent, I think, over the shorter distances, he should be running times like this, and it was just great to see him actually do it. Yeah. No, he, so good to see. We got talking on the monthly about this. Like, we were kind of trying to predict if he was going to run Houston this time last week, and then we're talking about whose responsibility it is to promote upcoming races. Like, you know, other sports, here's the season draw. When your band tours around, here's where they're playing the gigs at. Massive fan of Pat Tiernan. Didn't know he was racing until the Thursday when he put like a little Instagram story up. Like, hard to follow like, he's gone out and done something that only one guy's ever gone quicker than, and you could have easily missed it. There's been people hearing this for the first time now.
Yeah.
So like, there's still a disconnect there about, and Pat's a quiet guy. He's not going to pump up his own tyres saying, "Look at me, I'm doing this marathon on the weekend."
Yeah, we figured it out though based on the interview that the interview I did before Zatopek. I said, "Oh, have you got your eye on a marathon?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty much locked in for one." And I said, "Oh, can you tell us, like, at least give us, you know, what month?" And when he said January, I'm like, "Well, I don't really know any other sort of. There's not that many major marathons in January." And you know, the fact he's based in the US, it was sort of, it seemed quite obvious. But then, you know, you're never sure what happened between Zatopek and now as to whether, you know, is he still fit? Is he healthy?
Well, my point is, you shouldn't have to crack the code. You shouldn't have to be like, which marathon's there? And like, yeah, I think we just need to get better at like we kind of come up saying it was probably an Athletes Australia responsibility to like almost gather that information from our top 10, 15 guys, where you're racing. Now it's our job to build the hype. We're the media team, we're the social media team. I don't think it's Pat Tiernan's job to put 5 Instagram posts, but it'd just be good. And after we did say that on the monthly, they did a post like 24 hours later, preview. So obviously someone's listening in there, which is always good. But
what I found interesting with this event, though, is I saw more media in the lead up around the half marathon than I did for the marathon. So, I knew Helen Obiri and Galen Rutt were running the half marathon, but I had no idea who was running the marathon.
It's probably, they love the half in Houston, and do you think with the US trials coming up as well, it was almost like there's a lot of these big names going to be here. I think we undervalue as well how big the running scene is for Americans in America. So, like, if they don't have any Americans running the marathon, they're not paying attention to this Moroccan guy, who I think actually is based in America now. But it's like, if they've got all their stars in the half, that's where they're going to spend all their attention.
And none of their stars are going to be running the marathon because, the trials are in like a few weeks' time.
And we see it when, like, Boston released their women's field the other day. Like, how big of a deal they make about, was it Emma Bates? Yeah, because she scratched from the trials, but now she's going to do Boston and Des Linden and stuff like that. Like, the money for those guys to be involved in their majors and how much they love pumping that up.
Yeah, I might just whip through a few more results from here. So in the women's marathon, Rahma Tusa Chota, she won in 2:19:33, and Victory Chepngeno was second in 2:19:55. Speaking of the half, it's always generally a pretty quick race here at Houston for the half. So Jemal Yimer, he won in 60:42. Wesley Kiptoo was second, 60:43, and Milkesa Toloso was third in 40:58. Galen Rutt was 14th in 62:37. So I know I messaged you, Brady, saying not a great run for Galen, but then you said maybe he's in heavy sort of marathon training. But I don't know, he just doesn't seem the same athlete that he was. I don't know what's going on with Galen.
Since he left Salazar, I don't think he's been the same athlete.
Yeah.
But my good friend Julian Spence would say, you don't need to run a good half marathon in a marathon build-up.
That's true.
So I'm going to take some wise advice from him. But I agree, he doesn't look like the same guy. But, yeah, he's targeting a race in 3 weeks' time, not this one. Wesley Kiptoo, he was second by 1 second. Do you know the results from this race the year before?
No.
He was second as well by 1 second.
Really?
Only because, I'm pretty sure, I've just said that off the top of my head there, but only because there's a documentary on him on YouTube. It's like a 20-minute documentary, and I'm pretty sure they follow him. I'll get Ross to put it in the show notes, and he pretty much gets out-dipped on the line. So when I just read that there, I'm like, this is last year's results. It's pretty much spot on.
Who's coach?
He's the NAZ Elite. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I look up, 2023 results, he ran Houston in... Yep, he ran it in 60:35 and comes second. What did he run this year?
60:43.
Yeah, and comes second. Yep, so he got out-dipped both years.
Women's it was quite surprising. So Sutume Kebede, she won in 64:37, beat Helen Obiri convincingly. Obiri was second in 66:07. And Booz Dariba Kajela was third in 66:24. Another interesting fact there was Wieni Kaladi. She ran 66:25 to break Kira D'Amato's American record. So remember, Kira D'Amato broke the American record on the Gold Coast last year.
Yep.
This lady took about 12 seconds off. And friend of the show, Callie Thackeray, ran 68:20. So good run from Callie there.
Had a remarkable year, hasn't she?
She has, yep.
So that's quicker now than Sinead, Lisa, Ali. Not Australian record quick, because that's at 67:48. Jen, I'm sure she was rocking up to some of the MTC training sessions and probably finding it difficult to hang on to some of those ladies. And now she's running, she ran 2:22, didn't she?
Yeah.
68:20. She's, ever since she left Australia, can't really claim any credit for that.
Well, it was pretty much that period just before Com Games. I think she was running quite well on the track over some shorter stuff.
She had some good 5Ks.
Yeah, she sort of that momentum's just continued because, as you said, when she was here in Australia, she was probably 71, 72 for the half, around that. Yeah,
should get her back on.
Her dad was a phenomenal athlete, I believe, back in the day. So she's got the pedigree.
She's on a Nike contract now as well, I think. So she's going places in the sport. Hang on to your hat, Croaks, because I'll take you to Valencia 10K. This was Sunday evening our time. Toby at the Bad Boy Mendes sent me through a bit of a link, and then I only watched probably the last 100 metres of the women's race, and then he also sent me through some expletives after that because he was quite shocked at some of these results. I'm going women's first. Agnes Ngetich, she's from Kenya. She was third at the World Cross Country Championships at Bathurst nearly 12 months ago. She ran a world record road time. It's also quicker than the track world record. She ran 28:46. Her previous road PB was 29:26. So I've seen some people this is ridiculous progression. No one's ever heard of this lady, yada, yada, yada. Well, she came third at World Cross. She also, I think she was sixth at the World Champs 10K final. I'll look that up in a second.
I'll have a look now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on her Instagram it's she was pretty happy with 6. Maybe she got done in a bit of a kick down or something like that. But it's not. It is an unfamiliar name. It's not a name like a Letzenbeck G'day that when you see you go, oh yeah, I know who that is. But she's been around. She hasn't come out of absolutely nowhere. Previous road best was 29:26. The biggest shock for me was the lady in second because she was more of an unknown. So her previous best was 30:01 and she came out and ran 28:57. So she kind of skipped the 29s. Emma Kite, Anya Algo from Kenya as well. And then Lillian Rengarat from Kenya was third in 29:32. At first, I get it. I've seen it on Twitter. Everyone's pretty much calling this out as not a legitimate performance that must be aided by drugs. But if you were going to say that, I think you also need to say the same thing for the women's marathon record, which is 2:11. and the women's half marathon record, which is 62. And probably even, I have got the calculator open now, probably even, not so much the 5K track, because this time is very much in line with the 211, if not maybe a bit slower, and the 62. So the whole sport's cooked, which could potentially be everyone's on it, or this is an unbelievable performance. Like, I don't think it's a one-off unbelievable performance. There's a few of them getting around at the moment, and maybe this is just the way we're going. What were your first thoughts, Croaks? Because I often compare it to Andy Buchanan, very close with him. He's a 210 guy and a 62 guy and a 28-20 guy. I just stack up women's distance running now with whatever Andy's running, that's what they're running. So when I saw this come through, I was like, meh, just stacks up, just goes in line. Hard to believe, but that's like where we're at.
Yeah, and the thing about it now, it's not like one person is running like super fast. There's a lot of them. So, look, Julian will hate, like, shoes definitely play some sort of factor. I'm not against the shoes, but the fact that so many people are running a lot faster than they used to, there is an element to that, especially on the roads. But, potentially training has maybe developed as well. But I remember back in the day, I used to sort of think to myself, if I can pretty much run what the women are running for, their world records, or at one point I was like, if I can keep up with Australia's best women, then that would be awesome. And then there was a period where I was pretty much, I guess, in line with like the women's world records. And now it's like nowhere near it. I think 1500 is the only one that maybe I'm faster than, but outside of that, slower than all the others. Yeah.
We can't dance around the fact as well that these women are coming from a country that is producing a phenomenal amount of positive tests. Like, maybe that's a stereotype, can't paint everyone with the same brush, but it's just a basic fact. So
yeah, but you think the testing, I don't think you can get, I don't know, the drug stuff's really hard in that you think the testing's improved a little bit, but have people got smarter in terms of the micro dosing? I don't know, because it's not like, if one person came out and ran 28:46 and everybody else was running 30:30, which is probably back what everyone used to do, or 30:20, you go, wow, this is what's going on here. But I don't know, you had three under 29:40, and you see it on the track now as well. Like the women that are running sub 14:10, there's a handful of them now. Whereas it wasn't that long ago, the women's world record was 14:16 or something like that.
Well, they went through in 14:13 the first 5K.
Yeah,
which is 6 seconds faster than the mixed 5K road world record, and equaled Beatrice Chebet's women's only 5K world record on the road from 2 weeks ago. That's mind-boggling for me when you think about the world record for the actual 5K on the track is 14, flat basically. They're running a 10K road race. They're only going through 13 seconds slower, and they're doing it for another 5K. It's incredible. She hasn't faded a huge amount either.
And it makes
10 seconds.
Yeah. It goes to show though that sub 14 minutes will go this season for 5K. Well,
it almost looks weak now.
Well, she could have surely she could have run 13 seconds faster through the first 5K if she really wanted to, if she was running just a 5K.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll see them on the track as much though. They seem to be Valencia road races. They just pop up and go bang, 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 and then names kind of disappear, maybe come back for Valencia the year after, or progress to the marathon, or whatever it is. They're not, these aren't familiar. I know they have been at World Champs and stuff, but not familiar names that I see at Diamond Leagues and stuff all the time. So,
Rengarek, she was on the circuit, on the track.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yeah, the lady that finished third there.
Yeah. The men's race was won by the world cross-country champ. He won at Bathurst, didn't he? Jacob Kiplimo from Uganda, 26:48. Missed the world record. There was talk about him going for the world record. Biranu Balyu from Brunei was second in 26:58. And Peter Mwaki Nijiru from Kenya was third in 26:59. Man, it's hard reading out times that have 26s in front of him and thinking that's 10K. That's Just so far from, Like, we're doing domestic road races talking about Jack Rayner winning in 28:40.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this lady would have beaten Jack in the majority of road races he's done in domestically. I know he'd go to a different level in bigger fields and being challenged and stuff, but yeah. What did they win Zatopek in?
Like, this is why you don't compare yourself to other people, Brady, because it's demoralising. Even like our best guys, the best guys we have, even them like comparing themselves to the best in the world is still like generally quite a step down. So there's generally always somebody that's faster than you. So don't compare. I
guess we saw it a bit at World Cross as well, like how far those boys were ahead of the Australians.
Yeah,
talking about
that Agnes did finish 6th at Worlds. Which even then, like, that wasn't that long ago. So you got to think that all of those girls that beat her, there's five girls that beat her there. Like,
is that over 10K or 5?
That was 10.
Yeah, okay.
So what could they potentially run at Valencia?
What time did they run? It was hot though, wasn't it, Budapest?
She ran 31:34 to finish 6th. Yeah.
I just don't get if you can run let's guess in 6 months. Maybe not 6 months. But yeah, if you're a 28:40 girl, why are you sitting in the pack and maybe waiting for a kick down in a slow race?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just don't think too much about it, Brady, because it's sort of, I don't know, it's hard to think when it wasn't that long ago that you go, oh yeah, I'm just as good as the best girls in the world.
No, well, I'm not thinking about, mate, I'm a hack on a podcast talking about running every week. I'm more thinking about, like, what does Rose Davies think? Or Izzy Doyle? Like our Australian track, Jen Gregson, like our ones who can... Lauren Ryan, like, what do they, when they wake up and go, okay, I'm trying really hard to break 31.
But it's probably and that's the problem with the sport for our country is that Australians love, everyone loves a winner, and it's very hard for people in our country to win at, in distance running when you've got women running 28:46. So. If our Aussie girls or Aussie men aren't winning, they're not going to get, publicity. They're not going to get sponsorship dollars. TV aren't interested. So, like, that's the problem with our sport, Brady. We are just not that good on the world stage, which then leads to other problems as to, hey, why don't our athletes make a decent living or all that sponsorship dollars?
That's why Norway is so unique. For a small country like that and having world champs or not world or Olympic champs.
Yeah. That's why it goes to show, like,
hurdles. You
look back, like obviously when Dick was world champion, it's like there probably wasn't the amount of Africans, but Benita, 2006 to win World Cross, like that's incredible when you consider how hard that is to win.
Yeah. All right, some more news, Croaks. Takes the 2023 Athletes Australia Awards.
Yeah, so they had these awards last week, and so just from a distance point of view, the male junior athlete of the year went to Cam Myers, coach of the year for junior athletes went to Dick Telford, and official of the year went to Gerard Ryan, who was the race director at last year's World Cross, and does a lot for the sport, like particularly here in Canberra. Like every meet that's on, he's there running the show. So congratulations to them. Another bit of news, speaking of Norway and the Ingebrigtsens, Jakob has confirmed that he'll not compete the indoor season this year, so he won't be at World Indoor Champs. He's been battling an Achilles issue and wants to focus on the Olympics and the European Championships. So, we often see this time of year his Instagram where he's in... where is it? It's in Spain,
Arizona, or somewhere like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do?
Yeah, usually goes there over the New Year's.
Yeah, I went there. So Russell Chin was training at that after Berlin in 2017. I went up to that training centre.
Is that where the beer is? Or is that America?
Yeah, I think it was. There's Sierra. Anyway, he's not going to that training camp.
Chriso's a bit worried about him. Chriso went into a bit of detail in the monthly about where he reckons Jacob's at, and I just sensed a bit of concern in his voice. So just a bit of a watch there. The 2024 Chemist Warehouse Summer Season of Athletics. There was an announcement last week that the partnership is going to continue with Channel 7, so you'll be able to watch all the track meets on the 7 Plus platform. Our DMs always light up whenever there's a big race on, so here's the answer now. If you want to watch these races, you need the 7 Plus app. Good that they held on to this because they do not have the Olympics. Correct, Croaks? Channel 7.
Yeah, I've been seeing all the ads on Channel 9 plugging the Olympics while
so that means
during the tennis.
No Tams and no Bruce, no Dave Colbert at the Olympics. Who's doing the commentary?
Unless they somehow
contract
I guess
themselves.
depends.
You'd be locked to the network. Could be an opening here, Brad. Get Moose there. He was on SEN this morning.
Well, I don't know, but do you reckon Tamsin's locked to Channel 7, or she has some contract with AA and like she can easily move around?
Don't know. It could be an opening. That's all I'm saying.
Because I'm trying to think who
should be locked to the network.
Channel 9's athletic sponsor,
John
commentators
Stephenson. Does he do one of them?
Yeah, he's on. Yeah, he's definitely Channel 9. Yeah. I don't know.
If anyone's got a connection for us, help us out. We got some fellas who can get in that commentary box. Whatever you're paying them in Paris, we'll take half.
Hey, you're the one that's been in the commentary box
what I'm
lately.
saying, Crows. We could go to Paris. We could go. Did you eat Moose on SEN this morning? He was brilliant.
He was pretty good. Although I'm going to say they asked him, "Oh, were you surprised by this?" And then Moose was like, "Oh, no, not at all." And then in our chat, he's like, "Oh yeah, no, he'll run about 2:10."
Pat Tiernan won't run quicker than 2:10. That's what he said earlier last week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was funny.
Sierra Nevada, you're right, Brady. That's the training altitude camp in Spain that they go to.
That's where the beer comes out of, isn't it? You ever had that beer?
Yeah, there's also I haven't had the beer, no.
I think that's it. I could be wrong though.
Well, there's a Sierra Nevada, I think, Rangers in the US as well.
That's where the beer would come from. It's definitely a US beer. I think Moose used to drink that when he was at Chico State.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. California.
Yeah. I reckon his coach, he'd be a big consumer of that. What was his coach's name? One of the best interviews we've ever had on this show, early days. Chico State head coach.
Yeah, Gary
Towns, that's it. He'd sip a few of those, I reckon. I got some news about Maragami Elite Fields. So we've got Australians there, Sinead Diver, Brett Robinson. We've got a Kenyan, Alexander Matuso, who's ran 57.59. I also think Matuso has got a really quick marathon PB, but was not mentioned in their shortlisted team for Paris. Did you see, they announced they got 10 guys, and he's really, really quick. My computer's just loading at the moment, and he was left off their shortlisted team he's run 2:03.11 at Valencia 2023, and he's not in their shortlisted. We're going to pick a team from these 8 guys. How's that? So he's going to go to Maragawi to take on those. Charlotte Purdue's going to be there. She got announced, and she's going to have a bit of competition against Sheila Cheptegei. She's the fastest in the field with a PB of 64.36. Interesting, no Jack Rayner. Sondre Mullins running, but no Jack.
I wonder what Jack's plans are for the next 6 months.
He's a half marathon man, yeah. Did you know? I was talking to Andy about this yesterday as well. The cross-country trials, world crosses this year as well. So, that's going to come around pretty quick. And it's going to be seeing, if many guys just go, hey, I'm focusing on the Olympics. I don't want that as a distraction.
Yeah.
So maybe Jack's thinking that.
I think the women's team will be the one that will be quite depleted because a lot of our top Aussie marathoners will have a marathon around that time.
Around the time of the trials, or when are the champs?
Worlds are in March.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Everybody that's doing Osaka or the Nagoya.
Yeah, Eloise, Ali, Jess potentially.
Yeah, not sure whether Sinead's even interested in cross. She doesn't seem to be that interested in cross a lot of the time. So if you still have your Rose Davies. Yeah, but that top tier, that top tier there won't be there. From the marathon point of view, anyway.
Yeah, good observation. Also wondering, we're talking about Kenya and the drug announcements out of there. Whatever happened to that? We're going to name 50 names at the end of November.
Well, that was my question to you that I put in here, Brady, because that was one of I don't know if it was your Whisper. No, I think it was before Whispers even started.
It was like a news article.
Yeah, but that was meant to be end of November, I think.
It's gone quiet.
Few brown paper bags have been handed over and it's all gone away.
There was one last week. Did you see the one? She tested positive, banned for 4 years, and then also it was abnormalities in her biological passport. Got 4 years, come back, and then tested positive. It's got another 4 years. She had 2 bans.
For that article that we read out, it was be ready to be shocked.
Yeah,
it was going to be some sort of big name, and we've heard absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So watch this space.
Watch this space there. Listener question. Which one do you want to go with here?
We'll go with the top. We'll go with the top one. So it's in relation to the marathon. So higher weekly mileage or long run distance, which is more important? And that question comes in from Hey Thomas on Instagram.
Good question.
Yeah.
Probably depends a bit on who you are, how much time you got, what other life stress you got. Because he's kind of saying, if I can smack a long run every week, is that better than me trying to fit as many mileage in on my week? That's what he's really asking. That's the way you're reading this?
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it, let's say, for example, your weekly mileage is 100K. I would say that running, making that 100K up of all 10K runs is not going to prepare you for the marathon as well as having a 30K run out in that 100. So I generally work more towards, or even if you're doing a heap of mileage, but you're doing it in really short runs, I don't think that's as valuable for the marathon as being out there for 2.5 hours. So for me, it's still more weighted towards the long run distance as opposed to the mileage. The mileage helps, but I think if you're not having a big long run, you're not going to be prepared for the marathon.
Yeah, that's the most important thing you're putting into your week when you're training for a marathon. That's the one you want to hit. Yeah, 100% agree. And that's what I meant about, imagine trying to fit 10 by 10K runs in with a family or with a job. Whereas there's a lot of people who listeners, weekends are when they've got to go big on that Saturday morning and Sunday, and they might get 25-30% of their mileage in that one day, which I think's okay if you're training for a marathon and you go, and that's the one day I can focus and I can get away from the kids or away from work or with my training partners for 2.5-3 hours and put that big piece of hay in the barn, and then the rest kind of just complements it.
There are other factors in that, potentially somebody's body's not ready for 30K runs. So we're assuming that this person can actually manage a 30K run. So I would say that a 30K run is more beneficial than a heap of 10K runs, adding up to slightly, even if you ran more mileage per week, running just lots of 10K runs, I don't think that's going to prepare you as much for the marathon as, say, running a little bit less mileage but having one run a week that's 30K.
A lot of people at the moment, especially paying a lot of attention to people doing Osaka, and I'm listening to Road to Osaka this morning when I'm jogging, a lot of people would be looking at their week and looking at their training block as if, did I hit Wednesday and Sunday every week? And they're not too fussed about what, adding all the recovery jogging, what kind of mileage adds up to. So it's really about, hey, in the 10 weeks, did I get 8 big Sundays and 8 big Wednesdays? I'm ready to run a marathon. Not did I run 120 or 140 or 90 or whatever kind of Ks you're trying to push out. That's sometimes I don't even know how many Ks I ran until I've got to recap this and look at my Strava kind of thing. You're kind of just constantly topping it up. But the most important things at the moment for me in my marathon block are nailing Sunday and Wednesday. Yeah.
We look at Moose. So if we look at Moose as this example, if Moose, if higher weekly mileage was the thing that was going to make you a better marathoner, Moose would potentially focus more on running more miles, but he's not. He's focusing on running a good long run on Sundays and probably another bigger session in the week. So yes, like it'd be nice to have both. It'd be nice to have a good long run distance as well as good overall mileage. But I think, the long run wins overall.
And you probably don't want that, because where it can hurt you is if you're trying to cram in as many miles as you can handle potentially on the off days, then it impacts the quality of your workouts or the quality of the long run, and you can't get to those paces you want to. Musso, he has got a history of he's probably ran some decent mileage for 10 years, which he'd be probably accessing a bit kind of thing. So, yeah.
And that's where a lot of these questions, it's like there's no blanket answer. It does depend on the situation a little bit.
Yeah. Depends on who you are kind of thing.
Because I actually had this discussion with somebody on the weekend about how many Ks would I, like right now, how many Ks a week could I do? Like, well, what's the minimum amount of Ks I could do per week and still run a pretty good marathon? And I sort of came to maybe like 120, but you got to be creative with what how you budget that 120 out. So for me, it would be, all right, I have a massive Sunday. I do like 36, 37K. Some weeks just easy. Some weeks maybe some quality in there. I would probably have another big run midweek, like another hour 45, 2 hours. I would probably have one longish session in there if I wasn't doing a long run, like a long run session on the Sunday. So they would probably be my 3 big days, and then everything else would just be filler. Whereas,
so you go.
Whereas if I can run 120K training for 120K was probably what I used to run when I was training for 5 and 10Ks, but it was made up of a hell of a lot, smaller runs, smaller sessions, doubles. There's no way that 120 prepared me well for a marathon, but I feel like the 120 that I just described with those 3 big days, that would prepare me pretty well for a marathon.
Yeah, I think sometimes mileage is overrated as well, and people obsess too much on it. Like I might often have the question with our coaching stuff, like, do you think I can get up to 100K a week? And it's just like, I'm kind of looking at can you handle a lot of people be on that Tuesday, Friday workout with the Sunday long run. Like it's kind of like, are you hitting the paces we think you can hit on the Tuesday and the Friday, and you can do the long run and still have a bit of running left in your legs, and is your life in a good balance of your family, and you're not, burning the candle at too many ends kind of thing, before I start looking at chasing Ks and chasing mileage. So yeah, I think focus on the quality first, and then think about the mileage to complement that, but not the other way around. Do you want some whispers? I've got so many whispers. So many whispers. I've been in Melbourne for 2 days, Croak. So 2 separate occasions in Melbourne. So the whispers were coming in thick and fast. Okay. But I now have to walk.
It's like the kingdom of whispers when you get to the big smoke.
I know, you get to the big smoke, you get in the super box at the tennis, things like that. But I did have to, people were starting to get a bit cagey around me, how much they can say. I just felt like a couple of people withholding information. So I had to just say hey, nothing we say in this box today is going to be in the whisper segment of the Inside Run podcast this week. But I'm hearing a whisper. I heard on Road to Osaka this morning, get your notepad out. Liam Adams, Osaka marathon potentially. Izzy Doyle, no marathon potentially, but going for the track to maybe get the time. Maybe someone gets injured. Maybe Jess and Ali don't sneak in front of her, or Eloise as well, and could be an opening there for the marathon. No marathon for Brett Robinson, but potentially a big marathon towards the end of the year he might do after the Olympics. What else come across my desk? I think that's about it. Any of that shock you? Oh, the one about Sinead Diver doing Ballarat last week. I think he got that one wrong. I think that one, I think that didn't land. But so some of these ones could be incorrect as well. But that's just what's coming across my desk.
Another one. I'm not sure if it's a whisper or if it's common knowledge that Joseph Deng no longer being coached by Rinaldi.
Did you hear that on the monthly? That was a...
No, I haven't listened to the monthly. Okay. No, I heard it through other sources. Yes. So it's obviously not much of a whisper now. It must be more of a confirmation.
Well, my source that told me that one last week actually went through his Instagram, and he's actually unfollowed Justin Rinaldi and the Fast 8 Track Club. So I don't know what terms he left on. He is the Australian 800-metre record holder. And you'd like to think that environment would have been good for him. Him and Pete Bowl used to be whenever you see one, you'd see the other kind of thing. So,
do you know who's coaching him now, though?
No, I don't. He's training with the Canberra group.
Well, I heard that Templeton
So he's going to coach him, his manager.
His manager, and also Peter Bowles' manager, is going to coach Deng. Which
Is it James Templeton? Justin James.
Yeah, James. Which is an interesting dynamic, isn't it? That you've got Peter Bowles' manager is now coaching his competition, but I guess it's no different to like Nick manages Pat, but coaches Brett. So Brett and Pat are obviously compete against each other, but Nick manages and coaches Brett, just manages Pat. But
yeah,
that's who I heard was coaching.
Has he got a history of coaching?
Don't know.
Like, always been big dog manager. I was talking to a manager yesterday as well, and I'm like, would you be like willing to come onto the show for an interview to tell us how it all works behind the scenes? He's like, yeah, I'll come on. I'm like, might have a big dog agent manager. Talks about, he was telling me how some of like the deals work and stuff. Because some managers have, I'll ask him about this when I have him on to clarify it all, but some managers have rights over the full athlete, if that makes sense. So it's like, say I manage you and I've got you your ASICS deal, then if another manager was to come to me and say, hey, I can also get Croaks a sunscreen deal, I would then say, yeah, but I need my chip of that as well. But you can take your 10%, but I also need 10% of that, and Croaks gets his 80%. So they have ownership over any deals that comes to that person. Yeah. Okay. Which I thought was fascinating. Anyway, and I've got one moose on the loose here. Thanks to all the people who wrote in last week apologising for putting their kids onto Strava. I'm going to start the hashtag, no kids for kudos. A lot of people apologising there. I was only directed at a couple of people, but a few people wrote in saying, yeah, got it wrong, shouldn't be using my kids for that, so I really appreciate that. But this one on Sunday, Croaks, it really got me probably more of a talking point. Finish my workout, go to the servo, get a big M, like pretty cooked after running 30k at 3:25 pace. And you read the instructions on the big M that says open other side. Like, you know what I'm talking about? A lot of Australians will know what I'm talking about. International listeners, this is a chocolate milk in the carton. Open other side. Now, we're living in 2024. How can they not have a carton that can open both sides? You know what I mean? It's just it's just a bit of a frustration. They've got to turn it around. It's a first world problem, I know, but it's just like, really? Like, we got carbon plates in shoes and you guys can't design a carton that opens at both ends.
So, Brady, I don't drink milk from a carton. Do those cartons still have the option to put a straw through the side? Remember they used to have the holes where you could put a straw? And
it used to be super soggy and you're like, square. I don't know if that would work anymore. I don't know. I'll have to check. Maybe that's why they put it there, for people frustrated. It's like, look, you can't open this side, but you can open the other side, or you can put a straw through the middle. Yeah. But it used to be real soggy, didn't it, when you were trying to get the straw through? And now all the straws are cardboard. So it's just like, maybe the cardboard straw doesn't go through there. But I just thought, like, willing to work with the brand, Big M if you're out there listening, but it was more of a just pondering. I'm like, how can they just not make the carton open both sides? And it's like it's almost a threatening warning, like, do not open this side. Like, this is the wrong side. You've got to go through the other end. So
you can always just get it in a bottle.
I could.
Screw top.
Not as good for the environment though. Single use plastic. I like to put in the recycling bin, the carton. All right, Brad, what's coming up? What do you got coming up?
So I'm going to go and do a session this afternoon down at Browley. Actually, I think going to go and do some 3-minute. Yeah.
What, just along the coast there?
There's some nice straight roads. No, like go in maybe one street from the beach, and you can get pretty much like a K on a straight road. So I might do some 3-minute reps with Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson lives in Browley.
Yeah. Go to the brewery there and pick up a few beers.
Yeah.
Some good beers in that brewery, yeah.
And then, back to Canberra Thursday. I'll head out to Stromlo and watch that Stromlo 5K on Friday. It's a Friday night event. So
you weren't tempted to go around yourself?
No, I just feel like, although I've been doing some of my sessions, not far off sort of a race effort, I just feel like it's probably not sensible to get on the start line, and I don't know. Yeah, I'll save it till I go and get this testing done.
Yeah, do some get some coaching stuff on there. Hey, we've got a bit of an announcement thanks to Mizuno. They've organised a Mizuno collab with the Road to Osaka people, or anyone who's trained for a marathon, or anyone who wants to do this training session. It's going to be like an open training session. So we know that some people are a bit secretive, don't like anyone just rocking up to their training sessions, but this is for anybody out there that's in Melbourne or around Melbourne who wants to travel to Melbourne on Sunday the 4th of Feb. It's going to be at Albert Park. There's going to be a set start time, which is to simulate the racing conditions of like actual having a start time you got to be on the start of the workout for, so you can kind of time your breakfast and travel times and, you know, going to the toilets and all those kind of things for. And then there'll be a designated workout that's still getting sorted. Moose is going to be there, Reese Edwards is going to be there, I'm going to be there, Craig Appleby, who I raced at the 10K the other day, is going to be there. Michael Marantelli, a past interview who's going to Osaka, is going to be there. Anyone you want to know, you want to tell, get there as well. Maybe if you're prepping for Ballarat Marathon, or you're going to another marathon overseas, or you just want to do a long workout, this could be the place to be. It will probably be something Croaks. I'm not sure if Moose has set the workout yet, but 3 weeks out, it's probably going to be something pretty meaty. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with something by like 7 by 3K. But whatever it is, you can alter
3
that.
by 7K?
What did I say? 7 by 3K.
7 by 3K?
Yeah, the other way around. You can jump in for half of it, you can jump in for most of it, you can jump in and out of it, but the idea is to start together. There's going to be a bottle drop-off, so the Mizuno are going to look after us and put out tables and stuff to pick drink bottles up from. It's going to be from a 6:45 warm-up for a like 7:15 workout. Hopefully everything's wrapped up by about 9:15. You can test some Mizuno shoes. I think they're going to have a whole heap of like Mizuno Rebellion Pros there to test out. So everyone is welcome. Like, doesn't matter who you are, what ability you're at. If you want to come down and do your own session in there, warm up together, do that. If you want to come just watch Moose put a couple of people to the sword in the workout, you can also do that. So it should be pretty good. I think Precision Hydration are going to have some like samples of stuff for people to use as well on the nutrition tables and at like the start and finish there. So have some more details in the next couple of weeks, but that's going to be fun. I'm so looking forward to getting into a big workout in a pack of people. And I'm just hoping, I've already said to Zaka, someone is probably going to run their race that day. And it's not going to be me, because I've already flagged it. I'm like, stay relaxed, Brady.
Good initiative, and you need to be finished by 9:15, because it says here autographs with Brady at 9:15. So even if you don't want to run that day and you just want to come and get an autograph from Brady, just be there at 9:15.
Straight to 9:15, yeah. That's going to be fun. So I'm going to the Surf Coast, I reckon, next weekend, Croaks, for a workout, and then I'm going to Melbourne the weekend after. So I've only really got one more like week of like grinding away solo, and then I'm down there. So it's going to be good fun.
And logging a few Ks.
Yeah, I've been catching the train. Did I tell you that?
Car.
No, I've been getting on the train. So like Victoria's got this thing now where you can travel anywhere on a train for $10. So it's pretty cool. And then like I actually don't mind driving to like Albert Park and things like that, but I hate driving in the city and worrying about where you're parking and you're doing those hook turns, like a real country kind of conversation here. So I just drive to Bendigo, get on the train, and then I just watch Netflix or read a book and then get off and walk to where I got to go. So good, so convenient. So, but I'm home now for like 9 days before I go down the beach. So it should be good. We're done, Croaks. We got through it. 90 minutes, good episode. Didn't even need Moose or Ali or any other fill-in hosts. But we'll get one for next week.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll just wait for all the poor feedback now. Sucks with just two of you. You need three. You need Moose back.
Nah, it'll be fine. No, Moose is fighting his own fight over on Road to Osaka. He's got that all under control. They're on the rails. We're just slightly going off the rails a bit, but we'll get it back on the rails next week. Thanks for listening, listeners. Right, see you next week. See you, Croaks.
Good luck with the training this week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Doesn't matter